Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another video. Today's been a big news day for Guild Wars 2. There's actually been a couple of little pieces of news over the past couple of weeks. A huge amount of reveals, and almost everything is stuff I'm genuinely interested in, so this should be hopefully pretty fun to look at. Now, it's all pretty much revolving around the third big expansion pack for Secrets of the Obscure. They've given us the release date, which is next week, so just 7 days away from posting this video. I'm actually quite happy to see that. Weren't we in a situation at the beginning of Secrets of the Obscure where they were testing out this idea of doing trailers and announcements right on launch, which kind of killed that speculative fun week? I saw some people in the WP Discord talking about that just now, and yeah, hold on, I don't really remember that for any of the subsequent patches. Did they just reverse that straight away? Anyway, only 7 days away, and they've talked a little bit about what's coming with it, and they've even given us a trailer, which we can play through in a second. Now, I'm not going to do like a really long, slow, tedious frame-by-frame analysis. Frankly, I don't think there's that much to look into there, but there are some pretty visuals and fun things to go for. Now, the trailer also does show off a big deal, and that's the legendary armor. I kind of think this patch really is sort of the main one for the X-Pack. We get the big, tentpole legendary feature, the legendary armor, plus the legendary relic that they've added to, and it's the patch with the new weapons, then the map, the map expansion, the story expansion. So yeah, quite a lot. Here, let's just check out the trailer first, because it does show off the legendary armor, and the blog post they released it with has a bit of a teaser, and I guess that'll be my first big subject that I want to run in through here. Also, by the way, in this video, it's kind of a big video with exciting news for Guild Wars 2, but also, I've got a bunch I want to talk to you about the channel as well, a bit of a channel update. I have been very busy making stuff through January, and I want to run you guys through some stuff, but I suppose I'll save that for the end. Let's do the first bit of the video all about Guild Wars 2. Here's the trailer.
Armour's hold on this world is more tenuous than it may appear. My people fear him, but there are limits to the control that fear grants.
Let's hope you're as lucky as everyone believes. Bring us something other than death.
Stand and fight! I'm sure you're well aware of the consequences of disappointing your king.
So yeah, not a bad one, I think I've long moved on from the days where I want to analyze the quality and critique exactly how amazing every single trailer was with Guild Wars 2. This is kind of in the middle, right? It's not one of the best trailers like we saw with Season 4. It's not one of the worst trailers. It's a reasonable length, It's not like one of those trailers where 50% of the thing is the end slate stuff. Probably the best part, I think, is the final frame, actually, where we get that really captivating, cool room. The enemies and the allies arrayed against one another, a nice bit of dialogue. As for the size of the patch, how the story will go, how it compares to Episode 2, which I think was, it's fair to say, a big disappointment to many, I guess time will tell. Now, over on the blog post, they reiterate some of the things that the trailer was talking about there, and yeah, just to be clear, they do say here 2 new convergence bosses are coming next time, which is funny. I think I've only ever done 1 convergence. Most of my Guild Wars playtime lately has been festivals, like I've leapfrogged Halloween, Winter's Day, Lunar New Year, which, by the way, I should mention actually is the footage in the background here. That's me. I've actually already, the footage isn't me getting my annual achievement in and that really cool dragon mask box. It's not that. It's just as the Lunar New Year was ending today, I went in and just did a full daily. There was a little bit of AP that I could get from that for doing the Celestial Challenge, which I'd been grinding in previous years and I guess given up right near the end. And yeah, it's just doing everything possible. You get a bit of Dragon Arena in there and I actually do pretty well on my second time through. Dragon Ball Arena is probably my favorite part of that entire feature. And I still think if the game had like PvP matchmaking when a festival was live for that festival's activity, that would be the coolest thing ever. So yeah, back to the convergences. I've done so little of this content so far that it's kind of cool to see some extra variation bosses coming in. I'm sure that's exciting. I haven't even really begun the grind, so I'm sure some will appreciate this more than others. I probably made a mistake here, right? It was probably better to do a bunch of grind before the patch, prepping for the legendary armor, then really relish and enjoy the fact that the content's getting topped up by these convergence bosses, and that will invigorate you about the halfway mark mark. What I'm going to end up doing is all of it in one huge long slog, and well, we'll see how great that really feels and how worth it that comes across in the end. So yeah, really kind of the big thing about the expansion, playing a lot of the expansion, doing a lot of the expansion content, it's all about the legendary Obsidian armor. When this was announced initially, I was really excited about it. Obsidian armor was like the prestige set for Guild Wars 1, if you guys don't know. So, returning to that in the middle of an expansion where we're also going to other realms. Original Obsidian armor came from the Fissure of Woe, Balthazar's realm. It was really exciting. They also gave us this concept art. I'll put on screen here for you all. And I think the concept art looks great, you know, like, there's something about the texture of the material and how it all comes together that feels like it's a cool vibe. It's a very different vibe to the really shiny, and I don't just mean like special effects glowy, but even literal shininess that we've had with the Envoy armor. And having just a bit of variation for the legendary armor is good as well. In comes the trailer, and you saw a little bit of there. Also, at the end of the blog post here, I'll throw this slideshow of, they've given a bunch of different dye schemes. Of different potential ways you can dye the legendary armor. They've given us a selection of different races. So the teaser is really good as far as teasers are structured. But this, I have noticed, basically the main feedback from today's announcement is most people saying that they think that the legendary armor is ugly. And it's funny, I feel like I'm in a time warp because this is exactly what happened with the Envoy armor. I think all that this set needed to do was it has to look good and it has to be worth all the grind people are going to go through. It has to look better than the other armor sets. I think personally it should do its best to look better than Gem Store stuff as well, but it needs to look different to the Envoy stuff. So if Envoy went really flashy, maybe they can go a little bit more subdued with this set, so I would forgive it in that way. But, I don't know, I kind of do agree with this commentary that in-engine, the concept art looks great. In-engine, it looks a bit rougher. You know, people throwing out terms like it looks plasticky. The thing is, guys, I think we're just going to have to accept, as far as Guild Wars 2's rendering pipeline is concerned, as far as how gear is going to come out in Guild Wars, you're not going to achieve this effect that this concept art is giving us here. There's a certain texture and a way that everything blends together that looks really cool in that concept art. I could just never imagine in Guild Wars 2 through the way that its post-processing and stuff works, which is a coincidence. Ironic we're talking about this, by the way, because one of the best pieces of news we're coming up with in a second ago is all about the post-processing. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect. And the other big argument against this as well, you know, people are disappointed it doesn't look that good. Do remember, and I do think this is valid, that this is just the tier 1 stuff they're showing off. The armor will come in and be upgradable. And so if you think of it that way, it's kind of like judging the Envoy armor for its earlier sets, which also really don't look that good, you know. It is, or like a legendary weapon judging its precursor and its precursor alone. So, you know, maybe hold that in mind. It then, of course, does make me think, well, why are we doing this at all, you know? If you're going to end up having a reveal and a trailer and a bunch of stuff that then people end up saying, ooh, it doesn't look very good, is having the upgrade process across separate patches really worthwhile in the first place? But there you have it. So a bit more on the legendary armor, and I think I will get Obsidian armor. I mean, Christ, I get basically everything in this game, so why not, right? But as a Guild Wars 1 fanboy, I mean, having Obsidian armor in both games, that just feels right to me. Back to the blog post here as they start getting into details in the paragraphs. They say, this update brings a slew of new features and content additions for Secrets of the Obscure, including the new weapon proficiencies, and they actually have that as a link that you can click. So at the start of this video, I alluded to the fact there's been a bit of news over the past few weeks. One of the really recent pieces was there's a whole separate blog, and I'm thinking of doing a live video about this, or maybe I'll get together with Boots, but they've released a blog post talking about how the feedback for the beta went, and the things they've taken on board. There's a considerable amount of text for every single profession in here. Things that worked, things that didn't. Some of them, like Engineer Shortbow, they were very candid. I was really happy to see the phrasing and the way they talked in this blog post. That basically, the Engineer Shortbow didn't really work well at all, really. And they've gone through and they've listed all the different things that they've done. So, that is finally, obviously, going to be something we see going live. I would assume that there'll still be some weird wriggles, and we'll see some continuing balance about that as time goes forward. They also have a link about the legendary Relic here. Now this is going to another post from the very end of January, in which they talked about the fact that you'll be able to craft this thing. Now I'm not going to do any dedicated content on this. The best thing about this blog post though is they explain there's a really cool mechanic with the Relic, which is currently with legendary stuff, when we unlock it, we get all stats, everything unlocked immediately. So when a new expansion released, say when End of Dragons came out and they released Dragon stats, anyone who previously had that legendary stuff automatically unlocked it, and that feels like kind of a nice reward and a kind of a good perk for having legendary armor armor on top of all the other perks that you've already had. But in the long run, and this was one of the points of discussion we were having right before Secrets of the Obscure came out and talking about running through this game long term, in the long run it's kind of like weird that someone could have built all of their legendary stuff, say in 2017, and never ever cared about any currency or any vendor or any reward in terms of new horizontal progression available to the game, because you instantly unlock all the new runes, you instantly unlock all of the new stat sets, everything's immediately available to you. So for the relics, they're trying something new, which I think is a really, really excellent idea, which is when a new expansion comes out and has a new offering, a new relic effect, instead of just automatically and unceremoniously being there on your build now as an option, you actually go in there and have a little bit of progression. You interact with the new content, you unlock the swap ability as a later reward, and then, you know, it will work like regular legendary stuff. I think that's fantastic, and I think that that's basically how all the legendary gear should work, frankly. But in the blog post, they do specifically say, no, the old stuff's going to work the same. They're constantly walking this tightrope, right, where mostly what players will ask for is quick and easy access to things, minimal playtime, maximum rewards. So when stuff like this gets announced, you know, you can take the other side of the fence and say that it's actually terrible. And especially when it's stuff people have already earned, and we've seen this with the legendary relics themselves, which once upon a time were the legendary rune system, or the T6s, we all know the whole story. People really hate the idea of losing functionality on stuff that they've already earned, even if it was something that they did years and years and years ago. So I guess that ArenaNet are too, you know, a little bit leery and nervous about doing it with the other legendary stuff. People don't want to see their power go away. In that world where only the legendary relic will get this cool treatment and nothing else will, I don't really know how much of an impact that will have on the longevity of the game, how much value we'll get out of this system, since it is such a small little area. Maybe it wasn't worth pursuing in the first place, it was just going to be this small piece, but you never know how things will go in subsequent years. Back to the blog post, they have this bit about the Wizard's Vault, which they say will have a new bunch of seasonal objectives. This will be the third Wizard's Vault season, essentially. We're currently in the closing days of the second season, so if you guys have got stuff to do, get in there and grab it as fast as you can. I was actually really happy that every time one of these festivals came out, because I played all the festivals very diligently, I've ended up with huge amounts of astral acclaim from this Wizard's Vault season, just because there's so much going on. You know, we had Halloween, Winter's Day, or was Halloween a part of the previous one, and the Lunar New Year, all with objectives that have been trickled in. They also say some objectives have had additional options added so they could be completed in multiple ways, and some of the less popular objectives have been shelved for the time being. So whatever they get rid of, maybe will come back, depends, you know, how happy people are with that. The intent of these changes is to improve the overall feel of the objective selection, reduce friction with required times for global timers, and reduce the number of expansion-only objectives that cause players to have different weekly objective lists. Not too interesting to me, to be honest, but for completedness, let's include it in the video. So then they move on into the systems update section. So this is coming on March 19th, not next week, a little bit later than that. But the stuff they're talking about for systems updates here have me very excited. Some of this is stuff that I've been looking for a long time. Number one, oh man, this puts a real smile on my face. Post-processing graphics options. Okay, so if you followed me for any length of time, if you've watched especially my various reshade videos, you know, of which there's been various editions, even going back to like Sweet Effects, fairly recently I also did a big like optimization in-game setting kind of video. If you've watched any of that kind of techie content I've put out before, you will know, if you've watched any of my stuff, you will know full well how much I hate in-game post-processing right now. They've done a few announcements that this has been coming as time's gone along. Well, finally the time has arrived, or rather on March 19. They say this: post-processing graphics options. We're introducing more granular options for post-processing graphics. Currently there are only 3 options available for post-processing. They have off, they have low, and they have high. Each of these settings controls hidden options such as bloom, color grading, color tint, distortion, light rays, and selection outline. These sub-options are now checkboxes in the options menu, allowing you to pick and choose which aspects of post-processing are displayed. This is fantastic. So the full story here, guys, really is what they've done for post-processing here in Guild Wars 2 is the same as what they had in Guild Wars 1. It's a hangover from Guild Wars 1's options menu, which itself is like, you know, it's so old now. We're talking about 2005 stuff. Why this is a problem, if you guys don't know, is some of those effects are kind of ugly. The big outlier, really, actually most of them are fine, but the big outlier is bloom. So bloom will blow out with all these big glowy details, all kinds of stuff that actually means you don't get to appreciate a lot about various models, the way your character looks, but also the environment. Skyboxes are a really good example. Guild Wars has these really beautiful skyboxes, very painterly, gorgeous looking. So one of my favorites, for example, is in the Bloodtide Coast. But because the clouds in the skyboxes are white, if you turn the graphics onto max, which most players will do, because most people have rigs that will be able to do that these days. I mean, yeah, it drags to its knees with culling, but let's not get too distracted here. People will go in, they will put things onto ultra, and what they don't realize is that the bloom that this applies blows out all the whites in the clouds that just makes the skyboxes look very ugly. There's a kind of an effect that you might enjoy about that, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying the bloom. It always makes me think about the video game series Fable, where they had this really ridiculous bloom and god rays everywhere, and it created this kind of fairy tale effect. But if you really want to appreciate a lot of the art and the detail in Guild Wars, actually turning post-processing off often improves the clarity of the image and the overall composition. And the reason you're turning it off, basically, is to get rid of the bloom. That's the only really horrible effect. But here's the catch-22 of that. If you turn the bloom off, you do lose some other really nice effects. So here in this paragraph, they talk about color grading and color tint. Like, for example, when you go to the swamp, God's Lost Swamp in Queensdale, it's supposed to completely recolor your screen. You know, it looks a lot more orange, a lot more murky, a lot darker. People who turn post-processing off don't get that experience. Another really good example is in the Alpine Borderlands in World vs. World. When you're up in the snowy areas with post-processing on, like at night, it's super blue and it's really rich. The color grading is awesome. It's a detail and a quality that the artists put in the game that a lot of people just don't see because they turn post-processing off. By breaking this stuff down into its own checkboxes, you can now do what you want. To a lesser degree, by the way, some people find that selection outline thing very unimmersive. You know, when you mouse over something, it's got that little green or red outline based on if it's an enemy or an ally. And yeah, I'll probably end up turning that off too. In the Reddit comments about this release, I did see some people were discussing another visual effect, which is the white flash when enemies get attacked. I hate that white flash too. And actually, about 2 years ago in the WP Discord, we had this whole thing where we were using NVIDIA Profile Inspector to change the way that the game renders a little bit, finding just the right sequence and change to get rid of that effect as well. And it kind of was possible, but not really. I would absolutely adore a change for that. Think about any kind of big Zerg scenario. You've got a big, beautiful, massive, amazing boss like a god from one of the temples in Ur or something. And even if you cull away everyone's effects, really, so that most of the light show is gone, it's still sitting there like epileptically flashing and flickering all over the place. And it's very inconsistent when the white flash appears. But it looks terrible regardless, you know. And then I look at other MMOs and I'm like, oh, well, they don't have that problem because they don't have the white flash. So that would be nice to be able to turn off as well one day. But hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth and start talking about other stuff. This is awesome. I really love that they're changing this. And we'll be able to customize. I might even do a redo of my graphics thing, because at this point, you know, DirectX 12 is all settled. Last time I did that video, we were in the transition. So pretty nice. Very happy with that. So I was just talking about the feedback for the new weapons that are getting added. Well, they also have a post on the forums about just general balance. They say, our next major balance update aims to improve quality of life for some existing builds, like Deadeye, bring some unviable builds like Power Harbinger into the meta, and improve some underutilized traits and utilities. There's actually a lot of changes in this update. I kind of want to do a a balance with boots video, if we can find some time to get together and record. We did do some recordings for some adventures. Because this looks like a really nice balance update. We're going to have this weird period, actually, where next week we'll be playing with the new weapons, but the big balance update itself isn't in just yet. But that has stuff like changes to renegade spirits and all sorts of fun new mechanics and interesting ideas. The question is, do we want to cover the preview or when the patch itself actually comes in? Next thing coming on March 19th, I think most players are going to read this on the blog post and they're going to skim over it. Actually, the next two items here, really. And they're not really going to care that much. I think these are awesome, though. So they say player versus player expanded champion achievements. I can't believe I'm reading this, really. The champion achievements that track wins for each profession are being expanded with 3 additional tiers. 500 wins, 750 wins, and 1,500 wins, with new titles for each. As an example, the Engineer will earn Legendary Genius at 500, Fabled Genius at 750, and Ultimate Genius at 1,500 wins. These achievements will take already earned progress into account. This is amazing. So, as you guys know, I used to play quite a lot of PvP in this game. I haven't actually for like 7-8 months. I'm kind of out of it now. I don't know whether I'll go for these. But, you know, Guild Wars has always had this thing with its competitive areas where you want people playing these things and having meaningful stuff to go for years and years and years. And they had the caps for all the titles and all the fun things you can get really low. So if you are like just an insane, I don't know, Necromancer player and you've got 10,000 wins just on Necromancer, you have no way to show that off. You have a pie chart in game you can look out for yourself. But all the titles, and yeah, okay, 10,000 is kind of a nutty number, but still 1,500 is a lot better. And feasibly, the idea of getting all of those, it's really interesting. They say that they'll take already earned progress into account, so I'm really curious when I log in what I'll have. I know I'll have some of those just instantly done. I wonder which ones I won't. And that might incentivize me and actually encourage me to play some new classes in PvP and actually go for each of those titles, because I do think that's cool. On the World vs. World side, similar story here. They say expanded Realm Avenger achievements. At last, the Realm Avenger achievement, which tracks player defeat in World vs. World and awards Ultimate Dominator. And again, Ultimate Dominator is just what you guys might not remember is when the game launched, all of these titles, all these achievements had really, especially in World vs. World, they had incredibly high thresholds. And it was like, oh my god, you'd have to play years to be able to see these things. And then ArenaNet did a patch, which I thought was an awful patch, where they just reduced all the numbers down to almost nothing. So you can get all of the achievements really, really, really quickly. And I always thought, well, look, do you want people playing World vs. World for years? Do you want them to have stuff to do for years? Why lower the caps? You know, that seemed like such a weird patch to me. The one that they left alone, though, I mean, I think they might have left a couple alone, but the significant one that left alone was Ultimate Dominator. That always was the big prestige thing. It's like, wow, that guy is Ultimate Dominator. And look, they've expanded this now. Look at this, 9 additional tiers at 250,000 kill increments. That's nuts. Wow, I'm so happy with this. Each tier comes with a new variant of the Ultimate Dominator title that reflects the number of players you defeated. Now, these ones don't have fancy names. They could have done like a God Walking Amongst Mere Mortals special, you know, wordy title track for this, I guess. But it's Ultimate Dominator 2, 3, 4, and I guess we'll go up through the Roman numerals. But still, it's something. And, you know, I'm nowhere near that stuff. You know, I played a lot of PvP, but I have not played that much World vs. World by comparison. Nonetheless, I really like the change. Again, I think most people probably just scroll over that. There is something meaningful with the World vs. World, though, here. They have a Lord update coming. We're modernising the loadouts of castles, keep, and tower lords with the addition of new channeled healing skill that aids objective defenders in combat, giving the Lord a more active role in battle. Attackers need to keep a close eye on the Lord and break his Defiance bar to minimise the support that they're able to provide. As a note, this is currently a stretch goal for the update. It may shift out to a further one. That sounds quite interesting. In PvP, if you play Legacy of the Foe Fire, you've obviously got the Lords, and they have like this big heal ability, and it is kind of a significant thing to break the break bar at the right time, especially if you're soloing it. I like the idea about that, but just on a massive Zerg scale, and he's not just healing himself now, he's actually healing everyone. I wonder if it's something more significant than just a heal, though, by the way. You'd probably want boons on there or something, right? And then there comes the question of what boons have they gone with. Interesting idea. And rounding out that March update, there is this final tweak here, which again I'm surprised to see, actually. It seems like a good direction to go in, but I don't know how meaningfully it will change the game. Noblesse Oblige. So this is one of the core Terrior masteries. The one that increases your revive speed and stuff, right? And it also removes down penalty, remember? So with March 19th, they are updating that mastery, which increases revive speed and removes down penalties on a successful revive. And it will no longer remove down penalties in strike missions and raid challenge modes. So regular raids, it's fine, but in CMs, it's not. That, I think, is an interesting split straight away. And they say this will help maintain the intended difficulty of these encounters by reinstating some penalties for ignoring encounter mechanics. Basically, what they're saying is, look, don't run a Hill Scourge or, you know, a Staff Ellie with, you know, Arcane Revival. Don't run these crazy res builds where you just brute force Graveyard Rush the thing, because everyone just tanks the mechanic and they res themselves and they go on. when you res each other in the middle of the encounter, you will continue to stack up death penalty. And for those who are completely clueless, the death penalty means next time you go down, you have even lower starting health, until eventually you just auto-defeat. And I think that's really smart. You know, the fact that that wasn't even there in strike missions is kind of funny to me. I did all of the HTCM grind, and I didn't even think about the fact that, yeah, if you went down enough, the death penalty was getting removed by that that mastery. I didn't even really notice that. So it seems nice. I don't know whether it's really going to change the gameplay that much. Maybe in some cheesy scenarios. Maybe you guys in the comments can illuminate me if there was some major outlier recently. Because obviously, now that we're in the new whole expansion format of mini X-Packs that focus on strike missions, you can obviously see if they're going to be doing a lot of their endgame PvE stuff, this is a nice thing to clean up. And as well, it might actually be in relation to the upcoming strike CMs, and as we go through the extra mini X-Packs, there might be some design they're already looking at, where they're thinking, okay, let's hammer this in, fix this before it becomes a problem later. But yeah, kind of a minor thing. Next up, and we're getting near the end of the blog post here really now, they say another update even further out. This one will be in April. That's going to be the Super Adventure Box. It comes out in April 19th. Has it always been that late in April? Have they shifted it slightly this year? I remember it started as an April Fool's thing, and it is an April festival, but it feels like maybe they've pushed it out a bit. Anyway, and I'm looking forward to this Super Adventure Box. If you remember last year, they added a test for the new zone, the new world. It was actually coming, and, you know, it needed a bit more work, obviously, so what's going to be happening this year is a big question. For me, I'm excited regardless of what happens, because I'll finally be able to finish my Crimson Vanquisher achievement, which I've been working on for Christ knows how long. Well, they simply say it will receive updated rewards and some additions to the World 3 test zone. So it doesn't sound like we're getting a new test zone. It doesn't sound like the test zone is finished. They don't give us any details about, you know, the feedback that they had last year about it. So it looks pretty minimal, but, you know, it's funny. I kind of like this idea of every year the Super Adventure Box comes back and we get a slightly newly configured test zone. How many, you know, it's a bit like the Rapids level. When we very first saw the original release of Super Adventure Box, it had that like half-finished version of it, and then with the back to school update that summer, it was finished. So we kind of had these two different iterations that we can remember. Well, we're kind of have the same thing here with this test zone. How many years it will take for them to finish it, who knows? I would have liked to have seen a bit more, because we're in the world of mini X-Packs now, right? So hopefully they've got their ducks in a row and they can figure out, you know, a way to carve out some meaningful time for bigger Super Adventure Box updates. But, you know, we'll have to see. That'll be a conversation for when it comes out. And that's essentially the blog post over. They have this final bit. They say, looking ahead, our final quarterly update after this is just a few months away, bringing with it the story's finale, new so they're talking about, you know, the actual final release, new foes to lock swords and shields with, a new fractal dungeon and CM at that point, new relics, the second tier of the Obsidian Legendary Armor set, and that's where, you know, the judgments, I think, really will be very valid. Another Wizard's Vault refresh, and an expansion announcement. And again, I've been saying it over and over this year, you know, Secrets of the Obscure definitely is more minimal than the other X-Packs. Trickling things out very slowly over the whole year instead of getting it all at once does make it feel a bit drip-fed. I think that there are a lot of valid criticisms there. But I don't think the whole mini X-Pack idea can be thrown in the bin or, you know, judged too harshly just yet until we've seen, like, 2 of them come through. Because the flip side to all of this is that, yeah, in a few months, the final quarterly update will be out, Secrets of the Obscure will be complete, and hopefully look like a value package for people. And we're in expansion hype again, straight away. And every year, a bit of expansion hype, that's going to be kind of crazy to see. And I think we need a couple of cycles to let that settle. So yeah, they're just sort of reminding us of that here at the end, before then they finally say, here's the Legendary Armor teasers, which I already showed you guys and discussed in the video. So there you have it. Lots of news about Guild Wars 2. A pretty interesting blog post. And please feel free to drop your comments on anything you think here. I'll be reading very closely. So, with all that said, I'm going to spend the rest of the video now, I don't know how the timestamp's going to look, I don't know how long this will take, with a bit of commentary about my channel, a bit of a channel update. Particularly, what I'm going to be talking about here is non-Guild Wars 2 content that's coming up. So, if you're only here really for the Guild Wars stuff, you might not be too interested in what I'm about to say. However, there is a lot of news here. If you've been on the WoodenPotatoes Discord, you probably already know this information, but for the benefit of everyone else, well, let's get into it. And for what it's worth, as far as Guild Wars is concerned, nothing is changing. As ArenaNet put out patches, as is worthwhile news, as there are expansions, obviously we've got another expansion announcement, all that coming up. I'm still going to do content about it. I'm going to cover it in videos like this. I'm going to do live stuff about it. You know, nothing's really changing. So, quietly in the background, this January and here at the start of February, I've been making a lot of content. Like, a lot of content. I have a full Let's Play and then some other stuff all ready to go that I'll be uploading soon. You guys are about to see a lot of stuff coming from me. The weird thing is that I've made all of this in a bit of a strange way, where instead of doing a video and then releasing it that same day or that same week, what I've decided to do is entire projects all at once. And then I'm planning on uploading them later at a nice, like, scheduled, steady pace that doesn't get interrupted anyway. So if you've been wondering where I've been this January, never fear. I've actually been right here, making hours and hours and hours of stuff. I don't know whether I should be proud or embarrassed about this fact, but I've seriously... I mean, I haven't measured this out, but I've probably already made more hours of watchable content that I really like already in 2024 than I did all of last year. Again, I don't know, should I be proud or embarrassed about that? And we're just getting started. I mean, Jesus, the whole year really is awaiting. So I'm feeling great and I'm pretty excited. So to explain all of this, I guess we'll go back a little bit. First of all, if you guys remember, a few years back, I did this big video where I said things are going to change on the channel, and I talked about how I really wanted to start making more alternate Let's Plays, fun, deep content on other games, like my LPs from before on Grimrock, Azuric, the FFs, and so on, which have sort of disappeared. You know, the channel hasn't done much of that stuff for ages. And just as I was gearing up, in particular, to do a bunch of stuff on Elder Scrolls, we did the Elder Scrolls Arena LP, End of Dragons was announced, I ended up focusing on other things. Then we did the big FF14 playthrough on another MMO on Twitch, and I found with that I had a huge amount of fun just streaming. That was basically a blind Let's Play. It wasn't an informed Let's Play, but it was really, really, really cool, and the community made that so fun. It was really amazing. So last year, rewinding not to the Christmas that just went, but the Christmas before, I thought to myself it would be a cool idea to try doing those style live videos on YouTube for the Let's Plays I wanted to do, instead of like this classic thing where what I would do, say for Grimrock and so on, I'll sit down, read up about the game, play it, do the stuff, edit it, then render it, then publish it. Why bother with all of that when I can just hit the go live button and it's all done already? And in fact, that's what a lot of people do online now. There's no effort really that goes into what they do. They just hit go live and there you have it. It seemed like all that other stuff was a bit of a waste of time. So last Christmas, I picked up FF6 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And the idea was that these videos would still act like proper LPs. I did one playthrough blind, that was 6, and one informed, that was Shadow. And I hoped that they'd still be fun to watch later, they'd still have rewatch value in subsequent years, there'd be something permanent, something I'm proud of, but just with the little caveat that they happened to have been live when I originally made them, and I could skip all this extra stuff at the end. And what I was really concerned about when I was trying to make things as easy as possible on myself with those series was I didn't want to start more projects and then have them end halfway or near the end, you know, not finish the project. Like, that's just the worst thing to me. It had happened multiple times, and I tried to change things for Shadow and 6 so it wouldn't, but it happened with both of them. I completely lost motivation with both over that Christmas. They stalled. I didn't pick them back up over the past few months. So what a disaster and a letdown. And, you know, even beyond the fact that they just didn't finish, it again meant that I haven't been consistently doing other games outside of Guild Wars. So over this Christmas, I had a serious sit down and look back at what I liked and didn't like about that live format. And basically, I've decided to not do it anymore. For a couple of reasons. Two really big ones, which I guess so we're not rambling here for too long. First, I think it's kind of a point of pride and satisfaction. Trying to eliminate the editing phase of making videos by just going live was, I see now, a terrible move. Even though ostensibly the videos really shouldn't be that different. Even though editing is quite often with Let's Plays pretty easy and largely just a big time sink of watching your own stuff, making the odd tweak or there. I now realise that that phase is really important to me. Editing gives me a proper chance to sit back, see and experience what I've done as a viewer would, watch what I've made and reflect on whether I even like it, whether I'm proud of it. It lets me like learn and know my own content, and if there is something clearly clunky or slow or wrong with the stuff that I've made, I can fix it in editing. I have hindsight and another viewpoint. I never realised how important that was until I look back at Shadow and 6, and honestly, I think they're good, but I don't really have much of a clue of how good they are. I don't know whether I'm necessarily as proud of them as I am of other things, and I think it's because there's this whole other phase where I just put them up and now they're just there, you know? There are certain edited speed up sections in there, sure, and, you know, I did try to do a real presentation, especially with 6, you know, I put those montages in, but there is this weird feeling of disconnection. This recent series that I've just done, that I was talking about, that I've done here in January and February, sure, it's taken a lot longer because I've gone back to the original style, but I've realised the editing stuff's really worthwhile. It let me do a bunch of cool things, and I'm really proud of it. I really like it. I had a blast editing this one, and for those of you who watch it, you'll see there's all these weird moments where I'm doing like commentary on commentary. It's great. So yeah, I actually kind of value that now. I was looking before at ways to get rid of the editing. I don't think I want to do that anymore. I've actually enjoyed editing this time, and I think I'll just do that from now on. Secondly, and this is really the big main issue I've had, is pacing, okay? So, like, and you guys probably know this about me already, I'm kind of an all-or-nothing, hyper-fixating person when it comes to a game that I really like. If I found that game, I'll have a lot of passion for it, I'll have a lot of joy for it, and during that time, I'll be able to make excellent videos that I'm really, really, you know, giddy and genuinely excited about this, that, and the other thing, looking all sorts of stuff up. That's the best content, right? But eventually, as with all things, I do get bored of stuff. Things do trickle out, right? So here's the thing. If I'm super into Shadow of the Tomb Raider and I want to make videos on it, I could spend all day grinding away at it, working, making cool stuff very happily. I could do that. But I can't ask you guys to do that. I couldn't have come out of nowhere with 4 weeks of 12-hour-long episodes and streams of Shadow, right, and expect you guys to watch it. A basically random game, do it out of nowhere, and expect, you know, to have a reasonable number of you be down for that. Some people would, but most people wouldn't. People have lives, they have work, they have school, they have schedules and obligations. So what I did with Shadow and what I did with 6 was I said, okay, we won't do a crazy binge thing. We'll do 2 to 3 hours a day, and we'll alternate days. We'll go Shadow 6, and we'll spread it out. That way people have time, from a viewer's end, that's really good. People have time to catch up. They can pick just one series or the other if they want to watch it. That's very watchable. It's a fun pace. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. But I realise if I'm doing it all live, I also have to be on that pace. And on my end, that's a terrible pace. Because I want to fixate. I want to go really deep into it. It's going to take way more total months and weeks of my life to actually finish a project. Even a kind of small one, let alone a massive game. And by the end of all of that, by, you know, 2 months into Shadow or whatever, my personal enthusiasm would have started to wobble. It will wane. And then I start losing confidence in it. And then I start thinking, oh, you know, is the content really as good as it was? And we start to wobble and eventually stall and stop. So I think that's a big problem with the live stuff. If I just do it on my own, I don't have that issue, you know. If you guys could see the amount of Let's Playing I've just done on something random, you never would have watched it all in the bulk that I've just banged it out here. And you know, when I'm thinking about this as well, what else I noticed? When I look back at all the stuff I've ever made, this entire time I've been on this website, right? And this isn't something that you guys in the audience would be very aware of, but all of my biggest, like most proud of video series, nearly all of them, they've all kind of started like this. They've started with me doing these crazy binges in the background where I make the majority of their videos all at once in a big frenzy. Like, take a random shot, I don't know, Azuric. With Azuric, I'm pretty sure I got into the second half of the game before a single episode was even out. I distinctly remember I had like a cough. And I remember I would shoot, edit, shoot, edit, shoot, edit. I wouldn't even render anything in the middle. And I believe that there's like a 6-episode series in there where they were all done really close to each other. And I was talking about that same little cough as it was going along. I've had some other chronic coughs as time's gone along, I suppose. But yeah, and then finally I start uploading the Guild Wars 2 Let's Play, which I'm also incredibly proud of. I had like 40 episodes or something done. You know, we did that over multiple characters. We had a Char character, we had a human character. Eventually, like, one of the characters died at Claw Island. I think we were at Claw Island before I even uploaded the first episode. And lo and behold, when I look at the Guild Wars 2 LP, what happened after Claw Island? Once I was actually uploading and now I was splitting my focus between reading people's comments and actually publishing all the stuff slowly and, you know, getting dragged down with these other things, what happened? Well, my enthusiasm started to wane, it started to stall, it started to wobble, and in the back half of the Guild Wars 2 LP there were these gaps in there. So I sort of realised this at Christmas, and I started to wonder to myself, okay, instead of doing this thing where you feel like you have to immediately start uploading, why not just finish the whole project? Why make half a project and then start uploading? Just do the whole thing and then release later. And so that's kind of what I've tried here, and it's worked really well, I think, personally. There is a bit of a downside in that for you guys, the viewers, when a video comes out and you comment on it, it might feel a bit weirder commenting because it feels like you can't inform the LP itself, you know, and I think that is a bit lame. It might make dropping comments seem a bit boring, but what I can do is just save the actual final render moment for later and respond to comments dynamically. I can edit things in. I'll be watching it as the episodes come out as well, so I think it will still be fun. Like, I myself will still be there in the comments, reading and responding. I'm not going anywhere, so there's still that side of the comments to enjoy. And besides, you know, I've got this thing about, like, permanence. To be honest, I'm making these projects hoping that people will watch them in the future years anyway. When I watch Let's Plays on YouTube myself, you know, I don't watch new ones that are hot off the presses. I'll binge, like, a series someone might have made in, like, 2007 or 2012 or 2015. You know, they don't have to be new, and if the majority of people are in that boat anyway, you know, what's really the difference? There's actually a Reddit thread on the WoodenPotatoes Reddit at the moment where someone said, hey, I'm doing my repeat rewatch of Final Fantasy X2. It's like comfort food for me. This was really cool. And, you know, that really, really made me very happy. I like stuff like that. And, you know, in fact, reading that thread might have been one of the things that spurred me into looking more into this over Christmas and all this new stuff. So, all that prattling is hopefully there to explain my current game plan. I started off with a fun little game from my past that I can assure you, this Let's Play I've just made, I can assure you guys, none of you are really going to know much about it or care much about it. It's Zurich levels of me throwing up a video on an obscure thing that you probably won't recognize. It's just something from my past. It's not even a genre I've ever played on YouTube or done on Twitch or anything before. I just wanted to do it to have a lot of fun and sort of get back into the zone. I actually referred to it a couple of times, by the way, in the FF6 videos last year. So anyway, with that done, which it is now, I do also want to finish 6 and Shadow. I really want to finish those. And now that I'm in the zone, that's currently what I'm working on. See, I don't want people to have a negative reaction to this new thing where they're fans of the old projects. They're still waiting for them to conclude. Because I've got so many things that people are waiting to conclude. And believe me, guys, I know what they all are and I remember them all very clearly and I do have plans for them. Then suddenly, like, I'm going to be throwing a new one up and they're going to think, what the hell? So I want to finish these other 2 things as well. They're not going to be live videos, though, anymore. They're going to be normal, as I say, proper, in air quotes, LPs. Not live videos. I'm going to finish those series, you know, the way that I've just done this other thing, which I think I'll be more proud of, and I think, you know, it'll work out and it'll be fun. I am glad for that experiment last Christmas, don't get me wrong, but I don't really plan to do that anymore. With Shadow and 6, like, finishing up, which I don't think will take that long. Shadow was right on the doorstep of the end anyway. I'll start uploading the lot. I'll figure the schedule out, and, you know, this channel will be flush with content. There will be a lot happening. Lots of different things, and they'll be paced out really nicely. What will be cool as well is that by scheduling like this, I can do an episode every day, every other day, every 2 days, every 3 days, every 4 days. I don't know what I'll sit on yet. Whatever. But it will always be there. It will always go up at 5 o'clock for you guys. Same time of day, properly. No gaps, no chance a series won't finish, and you know, the whole thing's a completed package that I'm proud of, and we can watch it together as it goes out, essentially. So that's it. Feeling pretty excited. Oh, and all of this is not to say no more Twitch or YouTube live stuff at all, by the way. I do still want to use those platforms for Guild Wars 2 stuff. I'm still happy to do live videos, like this current patch and the new stuff. Definitely you'll be seeing that. I want to use them as well for other MMO stuff. Big things that I'll be doing kind of blind, and I know you guys want to see me in other MMOs. So, like, with the FF14 stuff, the Endwalker playthrough, all of that, that's all still going to be the same. And I'd love to do this simulcasting thing on Twitch and YouTube, which apparently is now okay, and it's just something I need to look into. The trick is, just first I want to go through this stuff, do these regular LPs first, and then once I'm done, imagine it, right? I'll have all these videos going up for months and months and months. Meanwhile, I'll then have a totally clear deck, and for that period, I can dedicate my days to live stuff, and then we can swap off and do the other thing. It'll be good, but it will take a bit to ramp up. That's kind of the whole issue here. You haven't seen anything in January and February as I get the initial batch going, but once it's out, you know, it'll be consistent from then on. So there you go. Anyway, feeling good. Lots coming. And of course, Guild Wars 2 and updates as well. I hope you guys are all doing all right. I hope you've had a fun 2024, just like I have so far. And I'll see you guys probably next. Will be content on this patch very, very soon. Take care, guys, now. I'll see you next time.